Hello everyone, this is Nick Perry of Schaeffer's Investment Research with your chart slideshow for Friday, February 2nd. Today I am back with my weekly check of the broad market indices. In last week's chart slideshow, the focus was on support and the fact that the indices remained in their long-term uptrends. Basically, we were talking about this area here on the SPX, that area on the Dow. We talked about the comp there, and we talked about the rut. Actually, we got support here, but I was also focusing on this range here, the top of it. And basically, what we'd seen was we'd seen a pullback in this sort of consolidation area we'd been in, consolidation zone. But we hadn't seen a breakout support, so basically I was saying that, we weren't there, but that would be something to watch if we got there. But basically the message was that the uptrends remained intact and we looked like we were in a consolidation phase. When we turn to this week's charts, we see that those support zones were not fully tested. They remain intact, and not only that, but we see some breakouts to the upside. If we look at the SPX, we'd been talking about sort of the top of this range right in here. A little bit of consolidation, nothing like we've seen on the rut, but still a little bit of a consolidation in this area. The SPX kind of tested the top of it a couple of weeks ago, and now we see a break above this area. So this would be short-term support to watch, with this longer-term area, still in the back of your mind. But as it stands right now, with the Fed announcement out of the way, the employment report out of the way, this near-term support is what I'll be watching. When we turn to the Dow, we see pretty much the same picture we saw in the SPX. We've got this, support zone here, which hasn't been tested yet, and you've got a breakout above this little congestion zone right here. So again, it's breakout into new high territory for the Dow. As far as the comp goes, we have a slightly different picture here, where we don't have a breakout. We've had this little peak here, but that's sort of in the context of this consolidation zone we've had right here. Basically, the comp rallied up and has moved sideways. It's been flirting with its 50-day moving average. That trend line's now pushed above this support. And one of the things I would note is that while we haven't had a breakout, you've got a little air pocket here under this support zone. Basically, we'd seen this area here as the bottom of the range, and this recent low kind of held above that. I would consider that a mild sign of strength. I wouldn't make any decisions solely based on that. Because right now, basically, the comp is still in a congestion zone. Last week's chart slideshow, I talked about some of the skepticism we'd seen on the tech sector, and I think that's something to keep in mind. That definitely the earnings reports haven't been a real boon to this group, but it's still holding up relatively well. When you look at just we've got a consolidation amid an uptrend, so that's a constructive pattern. So until we break below this 2400 level, I'd consider the uptrend intact. Lastly, we've got the rut, and here we see a little bit of a surprise. We'd been talking basically about this congestion, consolidation, trading range, whatever you want to call it, in this area right here. I added this support zone here, or I'm sorry, resistance zone here. We talked about that for the last couple of weeks, and I thought it'd be good to go ahead and add it in, especially since we now see a breakout above that. So basically, we've got this uptrend, consolidation, and now we're starting to see a break above that. Sort of highlighted that pattern because that's usually a fairly good technical pattern. The key is now you'd expect this former congestion here, the former top of that range there, to hold a support. So if we do see any sort of pullback, you would want to see support step in there, see buyers step in. But for now, I'd say that it looks like a fairly constructive pattern. As far as overall takeaways from this entire thing, basically it's the same thing we've been discussing week after week after week. The uptrends remain intact. We have been for the last few weeks in sort of a consolidation zone, and now with this, the breakouts we've seen on the SPX and Dow, looks like we might have a chance for buyers to get excited here. I think it's also interesting to point out, as earnings season starts to wrap up, basically when you look at it, we'd seen some consolidation into earnings season. There's been some, concerns about, whether growth is slowing, and, we've definitely had some stocks react poorly to earnings. But when you look at the overall charts, they still don't look bad. So until we start to see a breakdown there, I think, one scenario to at least keep in mind is that maybe we just saw some hesitation heading into earnings season, and now with that sort of moving behind us, you've got the potential for buyers to step back in. that's just something to consider, something to think about. We'll keep an eye on the charts and see how this plays out. But for now, that's what I'm looking at. But as always, stay tuned to the blog for further updates.